She keeps coming up with excuses, right? She's like, "Oh, please,
Uh,
like, don't throw away my medicine. I need that." And it's like, well, you shouldn't have left it in the place you're getting evicted then from, fucking dummy, right?
All the way, Grandma.
Out of the way, Grandma. We got to change the locks on this bitch. That's exactly right.
Rough. Fuck grandma, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe Grandma should pay her rent next time. Maybe that won't happen.
damn right. Damn right.
Should have worked harder in life.
Corey, we don't hear you. So if you can hear us, we don't hear you. No, we don't hear you. So hopefully he'll come back out, leave and come back in or something. But yep, fantastic. There you go. We can hear you. Corey? Corey? We heard you for a second.
Uno momento.
Yeah. Okay. But all right, so we're just waiting on Corey get his Canadian tech working. But you
okay.
look handsome.
Can you
go
hear me
ahead.
now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Mhm.
Okay, now I can. Okay, now I can hear you. Sorry about that. That was weird.
Yeah, no worries. I was gonna say to Gibbs, you look handsome. I like the hair. You know.
It's the lighting, bro. We've got the lighting fixed, and now I look way better. Thank God.
No. It's not the. I mean, maybe it's lighting, but like your hair and I don't know.
Oh.
You look kind of sharp. You know?
Oh yeah, thank you. I think it's also not having the headphones on. I can play with my hair and shit now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Is that are
Be
you
very vain.
do you go to like the
For a
salon?
change.
So I had my barber come here to my house. We do barber streams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's actually dope as hell, dude. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I didn't. That's unexpected. But all right. Well, the person's doing a good job.
Yeah, my granddaddy told me when I was younger, he was a little racist, but he was like, son, always have a Jewish banker and always have a African American barber. Those weren't the words he used. And you'll always be rich and you'll always look good. And I was like, all right, daddy, that's good advice. So, I followed these pieces of advice to this day.
Do you use the same terminology as your dad?
This is my great granddad,
Your great granddad? So you use that same
Yeah.
terminology?
I did not use the same terminology.
Okay.
I only care about one color, and that's
When you were searching for one, hey, are you?
yeah. That's a strategy.
But okay. Well, hold on. Do you have a Jewish like accountant or something? Is that
Oh
a thing?
yeah, he's got like a last name with it's got like Stein or something in it.
I understand. But like, but maybe he's just only culturally Jewish, right? Did you like check if he has like a yarmulke on his head or something?
Listen, my money says that he's actually Jewish, so whatever.
Okay. All right.
If it didn't work, we go to the next one. Like if my ROI wasn't going too good, we'd go find somebody else.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I feel like it's probably best I don't explore this anymore with you. But
yeah, simple, basic business. You can ask Kanye about it. I don't
know. These views and opinions are of Gibbs only of the Primecayes.
Hey, for the record, I was the one advocating for this. Hey, if anything, you should keep him around. You're gonna get richer.
Great.
Unlike Kanye.
Indeed. We'll just leave that alone. Okay. All right.
Once the Diddy support dropped, we had that conversation about potentially buying Yeezy clothing. You can't do it. Not after the Diddy stuff. Like I can wear some shit ironically. Defending Diddy? No, I can't do it.
Wait a minute. The black community saw this a long time ago. This is what happens when you only wear FUBU. You're not actually us, right? You don't embody us. No, the black community saw this coming a long time ago, right? You're not gonna like this part, but like when he started doing his Trump support, right? When he went MAGA, yeah, we saw this trajectory coming a mile away. Now
Diddy
you may
support?
say, well, of course, MAGA isn't Nazism. It's not, right?
Hold on. I don't know about
But
Diddy and MAGA being
this
connected.
was the exact trajectory. We saw him losing his mind. Well, yeah, like when he talked about like how slavery, right? Like slavery was just a choice, guys, right? It's only
Yeah,
you
that's
only
funny.
chose the chains,
I
right?
can get over the Nazism shit. I just he's defending a literal like pedophile. I can't like
Wait.
that's not
What?
funny.
Wait,
The
hold on.
slavery
There's
thing was kind of
degrees to
funny,
this.
right? I
Oh,
can't.
hold on. Your levels of degrees go like, oh yeah, we can get over the Nazis, but when with Diddy too far.
So much so,
I'm not
yes.
saying one is worse than the other, but if I had to wager, probably the Nazism ranks a little higher than the Diddy.
No. First of all, be careful
Like,
about like how your hand, how far it goes up right there.
yeah, don't worry.
But
I'm not doing no outreach programs over here.
look, I absolutely think that pedos are worse than Nazis, right? 100%. No, that doesn't go like universally, right? Like if you like Hitler was probably worse than Hitler was worse than like some mild. If
Who
there
was worse,
is
Jeffrey Epstein or Adolf Hitler?
Hitler, he killed more people. I'm saying just like your run of the mill like Nazi you see in the street, the guy who just has some like really bad opinions about Jewish
How about
people.
like Dr. Mengele or whatever? Who's worse, him or Epstein?
Again, if we're talking about like the World War II era Nazis where they were actually like doing horrific
The
shit
real
on people,
ones?
the real ones,
The
as
real
opposed to the
Nazis,
modern
yeah.
ones, which are
The
by
ones
and
that
large just
Kanye is
LARPers.
advocating for.
Yeah, the modern ones are just they have like they have like synthwave posters in their apartment.
No, they have the Aryan Brotherhood. But like,
I know.
what
I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not defending them. I'm just saying that compared to child sex, compared to who we know we're talking about here, they're not as bad as them by and large. I would say.
Listen. I'm gonna break this down for you, right?
I'm not saying they're good people. I'm just saying comparatively.
Just like listen. This is gonna sound. Here's a hot take. Anyone, even like, let's just with Epstein is the like S tier of diddlers, right? He like had the island. He had the operation. You know, he's like maybe the cartels that are up there somewhere. All right, they're bad, but there's like a max level of like bad that those guys could do compared to I don't know the fucking Nazis. I'm just saying. This seemed like
There's
to me
no
was
upper limit
the same
on bad for
ballpark.
any of these people, right? Like, let's say Epstein like developed a worldwide cabal, like that'd be really
But he
bad.
didn't.
He didn't.
He had like a
He
fairly
didn't.
big cabal.
Yeah, look,
I think he wanted to.
he probably wanted
Yeah,
to,
sure.
right? I mean, that was probably his aspiration. I'm just saying, like again, the modern day Nazis are just like they're just trailer people, and they don't really do all that much besides say hateful things on the
They're
internet.
practically teddy bears. No,
No,
yeah, no, we get
Yeah.
it.
look, I'm just saying you can ironically support the Nazis, whatever. I don't think you can do that when it comes to the pedos. I think Diddy was too far. I can't.
Can I actually support the Nazis?
I mean, most of the Diddy stuff isn't even the pedo part of that. Like with Diddy, it's like the blackmail and the clapping the cheeks of other celebrities and organizing. Like, I mean,
I think most of it's the pedo stuff.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Have you heard the Meat Bill video? If you heard that, you might disagree.
Maybe when you come out more, when more comes out. So like I reserve the ability to change my mind on this, but like it sounds like to me in each way, and most of it was just like grown women that they were assaulting, and we didn't care about that like as a society at first. But there were certainly children involved, but it sounded like from his recruitment efforts, right? Like hearing about that, like he wasn't opposed to like a kid like getting in there, right? And just like not asking questions, right? That seemed to be like the big thing, just to like really like not ask questions about it. Um, but it like from the people who've been coming out, right? Like the people who've talked so far, it's been people who are saying, "Well, I was an adult at the time," but like violated. Um, and then of course men too, right? Like as well. So, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there was a bigger ring, of like child molestation happening than I'm aware of. But we'll see. But yeah, that's just my sense of it all.
Yeah, that's the
for sure.
assumption I was under Prime, from what
Yeah.
I've understood.
Yeah.
Of the cursory details that I know, that's my understanding. But I've like maybe read like a paragraph at most.
Blackboy's got his special source apparently over here that we need to get. Yeah.
Blackboy is special.
Look,
I thought it was very
I don't like this conversation because like there's no way I win. It's like I'm not trying again. It's like I'm trying to demonize the child people, like the bad people, but
Okay.
like I'm not saying that I agree with the
It's like your bad
Nazis.
hypotheticals from last week.
No, last week I was right. I mean,
No, that
so
is the
right.
no.
So right. And Gambit,
If,
if you're
no, okay.
watching, thank you.
I will ask you a question. I'll ask you a question on that. Okay. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible with code alone to make a random number generator?
With code alone to make a random number generator, yeah.
Yeah, you want to put money on that?
Well, what if I go on Google right now? I can look up a random number generator, and I'm sure that was made through
Oh,
code,
you
right?
can look up a random number generator, an actual random number generator.
Let me look it up. Hold on.
So to help speed this up, right? I think what Corey was getting to, and what I didn't talk about last week, is that our random number generators are like pseudo random.
Oh,
That
that's interesting.
yeah. So pseudo random, they're random for our intents and purposes, but like there's like an algorithm that goes into it, and like there's different ways of like like simulating randomness when it's like not quite randomness, and like that's
It,
what like our programs
it's
do.
like philosophically impossible. Okay, at least as far as I wish I knew this at the time. I didn't know how stupid that answer was from Gambit when he said, "I just look at the code and see it's a random number." When I asked the question, the hypothetical, could you even actually make a random number generator that gives all of the same answers over and over? He said, "Yeah, sure, of course, because I'm not an idiot." But actually, if I were, I don't know if he's self-employed, but if I were like his manager, like I would fire him on this. Like, you don't
Oh,
know.
so hold on. Whether or not, so I'll look more into this. I'm not super familiar with
Yeah.
if random number generators are truly random or if they're mimicking randomness to some like crazy degree. But none of that changes. Like you could wrap your head around the idea of like a hypothetical random number generator, one that truly is like the quantum level, like selects a random number, and then for the last 10 times it happened to pick the same number every time.
Well, hold on.
Whoa. Because now he's changing the hypothetical. The hypothetical was it always give the same result or 200. Okay, now you
No,
downgrade it to 10.
it did always give the same. Yeah, it did always give the same result, either at 10 or 200. It doesn't matter. The number could be 12 billion.
No. It actually does matter. Actually, so that like go with the 200. Okay, if a computer simulation was flipping a coin every half second, so twice a second, and how long do you think it would take for it to get 200, let's say tails or heads in a row? Do you have any intuition on what that time scale is?
If it flipped one a second,
or even 2 a second, we can double it.
I mean, if you're really lucky, it could happen. It could happen in 200, or I guess in this case, 100 seconds.
Yeah, but what do you think? You can calculate the probability.
Yeah, it's very low probability, but if you get really lucky,
I'm asking what is your intuition in terms of what that
oh,
probability is?
longer than the age of the universe.
Yes, by orders of
By
magnitude.
orders of magnitude, yeah.
Right. And so it is pretty much a ridiculous hypothetical scenario to especially equate it to outcome, to say that it's always like if you don't see any contradiction there and that's a bad hypothetical, then that your logic is off.
What are we yelling at Lockwood for this time? I just want to know what we're yelling at you for.
We're rehashing some shit. Corey. Do you think the trolley problem? Do you think that's a realistic situation that's ever happened?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
mental
absolutely.
hypotheticals?
Do you think the trolley problem has happened?
Well,
That there's been 10 people tied to one trolley and
Depends on
one
how you
person
frame it.
tied to. Hold on, no, I'm not talking about how you frame it. I'm talking about the classic trolley problem where it's 10 people tied to one track and one person tied to the other track, and like a random person is just standing there and they could turn the lever to shift the train from one track to the other. Has this ever happened?
Absolutely.
In
100%
that way you framed it, unlikely, but that doesn't address my point in terms of just the philosophical contradiction of saying that tying a random system to an always the same outcome. If you don't think there's any contradiction there whatsoever.
I think you're misunderstanding. I'm saying if it is the case, so it's an if and, right? It would be the exact same thing of like saying, I eat breakfast every single day. I never skip breakfast. Let's say I tell you that, Corey. I never skip breakfast. And then you were to say, well, if you didn't eat breakfast today, what would you be? Now, the correct answer is hungry, not, well, I eat breakfast every single day, so the likelihood of that is 0. That could be true. The likelihood of me skipping breakfast could actually be 0. but that doesn't change the hypothetical. The question is, if it is the case
No,
that you hit,
no, your hypothetical is not self-contradictory. That's the problem with the hypothetical. Why do you think it's so difficult or pretty much
We
impossible
did this
now?
last week, Lactoid.
Yes.
We did this last week. You gave me the hypothetical. I engaged. I engaged perfectly with you, and I told you the only reason, the only conceivable reason in the world demonstrated was that there was a God that made it so. That's literally the only conceivable reason. Because otherwise, you couldn't give me a conceivable reason. You can't give me a single logical reason.
I could give you a. I will right now.
Give me one.
Okay, it's a 4-letter word. Okay, you ready? Luck. You could be extraordinarily lucky and get heads 200 times in a row.
So you're woo-woo when it comes to crystals and things like luck. Luck can be a thing and a factor.
What is luck? What is luck? What is luck?
It's a woo-woo force. It's an energetic force.
It's an energetic force?
At the very least.
I agree.
It's like
a woo-woo force specifically.
Yeah, at the very least. Like, listen, I'm a lucky guy. I attribute a lot of my shit to luck. That just means, like, I think God has my back. I feel like God has my back. I'm one of the chosen ones.
Luck is when you get heads 10,000 times in a row with a perfectly random coin.
I engaged with you perfectly, Lactoid.
Wait. Aiko, it's luck. You would agree that'd be lucky, right?
Yeah, I didn't hear the first part. I don't hear your question.
Well, no, maybe this is
going
good.
Based on those.
Maybe you're going to agree with me then. So it's luck. So you would agree that a sufficiently lucky person could get 200 heads in a row on a truly random coin.
No.
Yeah, but the odds of that happening, you can calculate the odds of that happening, right?
Extraordinarily
and
low.
Those
extraordinarily low. Yeah.
Extraordinarily low. And the odds that you calculate for 200 flips of a coin, right, would be the odds of you being right in that argument.
that I agree with.
Yeah, and every time you flip a coin,
debate coach.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about
hook, line, and sinker.
You think it's fair?
I made this point at the time as well.
No. So, Lactoid, how do you know that something is random? Just on principle, how can you tell whether something is random?
I don't think there's any way to know for sure whether something is random.
Right. Okay.
There's no consistency.
Well, can I finish my argument? Can I finish my argument in terms of, like, generally speaking, as a casual definition, we fair to say that something is random is unpredictable.
Sure.
Okay. Now, do you think it's fair to conjure up a hypothetical where the result is predictable and describe it as random?
I guess it depends on to modify, it depends on, like, what you mean. Like, if you flip a coin, it's predictable that you will get heads or tails. Like, there's two options that are predictable.
That wasn't hypothetical. You said always black people.
Well, right. That was the hypothetical. Hypothetically, right, if you flip a coin that's purely random, it's unpredictable if you're going to hit heads or if you're going to hit tails every time. But if 200 times has passed and you've hit heads every single time, it's also the 201th time is equally as unpredictable as any 201th, whatever.
Yeah.
Is equally as unpredictable as the whatever.
You're right.
The prior 200 times. Yeah.
The odds are always 50-50 in a vacuum in a coin.
Yep.
If you encounter that on the 199th occurrence, okay, would you ever describe, like, what is the more reasonable conclusion? Okay, that is, we're dealing with a random system, or there's something else occurring.
In reality, it would be that something else is occurring.
Yeah, this is Occam's razor.
Yeah, the hypothetical was controlling for any dishonesty.
But it's not, though, because again, it's
because I made the hypothetical, and I'm saying
it's a self-contradictory hypothetical.
Yes, that's the ultimate argument, right? Is that if you agree with both premises, and what you're saying is you must accept both premises.
Yeah.
But what you're basically saying is you must accept contradictory premises, right? That it is both. It is both predictable and not predictable at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
No, but it wouldn't be unpredictable. Hold on, but you can at least, like, you can fathom the idea of winning the lottery, right? Despite the fact that it's extraordinarily low, but somebody wins it, and there are people who've won the jackpot, right? Yeah. So if I tell you, imagine you've won the jackpot, are you going to argue with me about the odds?
I would argue about the odds if someone won the jackpot 200 times in a row, the same person.
No. Even winning it once, even winning it once is you have a higher chance of being struck by lightning. It is extraordinarily low chance. I'm asking you, if I say, imagine hypothetically you won the lottery, this would be an unreasonable hypothetical by your standards.
No, it wouldn't, because
No, it
the
wouldn't.
thing that you're predicting is that someone wins the lottery, right? The odds of someone winning the lottery at any given percent is like 40%, right? It's 40% chance. I'm just making that up, but that sounds right to me. That 40% of the time somebody won the lottery that time, right? But
Yeah,
if the same there was somebody recently, who was he was the chief lottery person in that country. I need to look it up because it just happened. It was just reported on today, and that person won $85.6 million and immediately resigned. So a reasonable person would look at that and say, we need to at least investigate to see. And also, that lottery ticket that he won off of, he had sent to him by courier. So again, the odds are overwhelming that this is not like, now it's possible that he just did that not knowing if it was truly a random card or not. But you would be reasonable to suspect that randomness was not the only factor in that case.
I would agree. Yeah.
Right. Therefore, you would be reasonable to suspect that structural racism is the more likely explanation.
In my hypothetical?
Yeah.
And it's way more reasonable, infinitely more reasonable.
Not in the hypothetical that
maybe not infinitely, but pretty approaching infinitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Aiko, imagine what would I be if I didn't eat breakfast this morning?
Hungry?
Well, but I never skip breakfast though, Aiko. I've never done it in my entire life, and I never will.
You're not even addressing the crux of the point.
Then you didn't skip it.
No. But right. So the answer to the question of if I didn't eat breakfast, what's the answer to that, Aiko?
That you're a liar. That one of your presumptions is not true, right? Either that you always eat breakfast, or
you're not
that you lied about always eating breakfast.
Do it correctly. You have to agree with him and give him his.
No, Lacto doesn't see the problem.
I'm just answering the question.
You're doing it wrong.
You can create a syllogism with false premises. You can do that. That's a thing that happens.
I'll go back to my original question. Do you think it's fair to describe a system as always producing the same outcome and describe that as random? Because that was hypothetical.
I think you can have a truly random system that has produced the same outcome.
I'm not saying whether it can exist. I'm saying it's fair.
You cannot predict if you're sitting from the front, like in the temporal space. If you're sitting on the front end, you can't predict that it will hit heads 20 times because it's unpredictable.
No. What was the hypothetical? You said this system always provides the same outcome. Is that a predictable system?
No, I'm saying it has produced the same outcome 20 times in a row.
I'm not saying that was not the original premise. The original premise was that it always.
Yes, that was
I'm saying that it did always. I'm not saying that you can, like, if you
hold on, it wasn't
yourself in the middle of it.
It was just used like original one, and he said always. Like he said,
and Lacto
always in the sense that like it always has. Like in the past 20 times, it's hit the same heads every time.
Even Gibbs didn't agree with this. I don't know if he does now, but
he showed up at the end. He didn't know what was going on. What are you talking about?
I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you this. This is real simple. This is really stupid because I don't think anything at all is random. Like whether or not you believe in God, not in God, like we know that we all are products of an environment. That environment acts upon us. And therefore, if you are trying to imagine some hypothetical scenario, well, you can't even do that because you're acting off. Like, how are you going to be able to think the same way as like a silicone-based life form? It's just not possible because you're going to act in the same manner as like the environment you were based upon. So there is no randomness, what I'll be arguing. Because, and then even further, I mean, now I'm not the scientist here, but based on my cursory understanding of science, everything in the universe follows some sort of rule or that is either we know or is yet to be discovered, and therefore nothing is random at the meta.
Bro, how high are you right now? What the fuck are you?
Problem. This is just facts.
Some good ganja,
He's right.
bro.
Facts.
He's right.
Tell me what I said is wrong right there.
It's not my position. I think randomness has to do with the observer, right? If you can't predict it, then it's random to you. But I do think that Gibbs is saying that what he's saying is you can say that this thing is random, or you can say that no such thing as randomness exists. What you can't do is say both. Yeah.
I would agree.
That's one of the two possible answers to that, and Gibbs gave one possible answer. I'm kind of on the other side of that, but we're both staying within the constraints of what's possible. But to say that something is truly random and also always receives the same result, those are the two things that can't happen.
Are you guys fucking with me?
Even if we're talking about a smaller number, even if we're just talking about 8 coin flips in a row, which is still pretty darn unlikely.
I would never fuck with you, Lactoid.
Yeah, that can still happen, right? But what it means is that the odds of it happening are very, very low, right? So the odds of structural racism not existing and it being a truly random result is also exceedingly low, right? The odds are very much higher that it's structural racism is the cause, or some other element besides structural racism. There could be some other element too.
One of the hypos that I presented a world with white people and a world with black people.
Yeah.
What do you think the likelihood of this? Yeah. What do you think the likelihood of this being the case is?
My hypothetical where I answered God.
Okay. With God, all things are possible. What? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. What's the hypothetical that out there is one world with nothing but white people on it and one world with nothing but black people on it? What's the likelihood of that? You think?
I have no idea how to calculate that. There are so many axioms that you would have to set up.
It probably exists in the world, you know.
Bro, what?
Yeah, what? Have you not seen aliens? Every time an alien race comes down, it's one group of people. They all look the same.
And they're Homo sapiens.
Gibbs can tell you there's more than one kind of alien.
Yeah, and they're Homo sapiens.
Wait. More than one kind of alien, but does
I'm not saying alien.
Is it true that each alien planet is homogeneous?
They start out relatively homogeneous, but they
in origin at least, right? In origin. No, really? No, so there are multicultural planets besides Earth?
Yeah. There gotta be, right?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Look at
that's not what
look at Vulcans.
All I can do is look at nature and I see like 2 times ants of a different color, and you know what they do? They kill each other. So I'm assuming that all species worldwide and universal wide are like that. There's gotta be basically racism throughout.
Blackfoot, can I ask you a question? What's your problem with giving into like there is like structural or like systemic racism? What's your issue there?
No, you guys are so
No, I don't. No, I'm literally
the whole argument was like it wasn't about whether or not structural racism exists. I mean, GSU Gambit was arguing on my side, and me and him have had discussions as to the extent of structural racism and where it exists and where it doesn't. And I will accept that it exists in certain areas. The reason we were aligned is because we were both aligned against this theory that looking at an outcome is sufficient to determine that there has been structural racism. Because
you realize that when we make determinations, right? We never limit ourselves to only when it's 100% of the time determinations, right? We always know that there's going to be some slight exceptions to the rule, right? We don't wait until not just approaching zero, but we actually hit zero when we can make a determination. In the field of law, if you did that, you got a business.
What are you talking about?
When you have to prove something in a court of law, you have to prove preponderance of the evidence, right? Like that's your obligation. Yeah. And even in if we're talking about if preponderance of the evidence,
I can draw.
Preponderance of evidence is irrelevant. You could have.
No, it depends on the court case.
We're talking about civil cases.
Yeah, in civil cases, it's preponderance. That's true.
I'm moving on to the next one. I haven't finished my list yet, but that's one of them is preponderance of the evidence.
I can address. I can address that hypothetical, right? Yeah. So you would agree.
Well, it's not a hypothetical. What I'm saying is, even in cases of criminal court where the standard is much higher, you still have the reasonable doubt standard, which means that there's some doubt. Right? Like if you wanted to say, what are the odds of a DNA match being wrong? It's like this incredibly low number, right? And so in the OJ case, the prosecution said, the odds of it being wrong are so infinitesimally small that you have to determine that OJ did it beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
I have the perfect response to this. So in law, you have to prove something called causation. It's not enough. It's not enough to just look at. Give me 1 second. It's not enough to just look at damages, right? If you show up to court and all you show is like pictures of your damaged car and say, look at my car's damaged, so he must have done it, you're losing that case. I have seen, I guess I haven't personally seen, but I have heard of cases being thrown out because the attorney neglected to sufficiently prove causation. You have to prove that the person did something wrong, that thing that they did wrong caused the damages, and then the damages resulted. And so what me and GSU Gambit were saying is it's not sufficient to just look at the damages. You have to provide a theory as to causation on every inequity.
I agree.
On every inequity, And that causation needs to be tied to some sort of racism.
But the doubt has to be reasonable, right? So there are some potential causes that are so unlikely that they're not reasonable, right? So if you wanted to say that a fairy came out of the forest and caused the damage right at the same moment that this other car was in the vicinity, no jury would say, okay, can't rule that out. Yeah, so I guess that person is not liable.
Correct.
Right. So that means you don't have to get all the way to 100% likelihood. You have to get to some level of likelihood where it's not reasonable to assume it.
Agreed. You could never get to 100% likelihood.
Exactly.
In fact,
and what that hypothetical was designed to do was to say that if you had any number, no matter how small, you can just say, oh, it was probably random then. Or it might have been random, and therefore we can't.
That was not the purpose. First of all, you really can't know anything 100%, right? There's this concept of solipsism. We all could be in the matrix.
It becomes solipsism. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
We could all be in the matrix. What the hypothetical was trying to show is that all it was showing is here's an example of inequity that is entirely caused by randomness, that is entirely caused by luck.
Again, self-contradictory. You can just
roll with me for a second. Just roll. Here is an inequity that is entirely caused by bad luck, I guess. And I'm not saying that definitively proves that in the real world, all instances of inequity are caused by bad luck. But what we're saying is it's not sufficient to just simply, and this is what Gambit was saying multiple times, it's not sufficient to just look at inequity. This is one of the things that happens all the time when it comes to the wage gap, for example. Look, women make less than men do. This must be because of some kind of sexism. All right, well, if you just simply roll with this sort of this sort of consequentialist, not even consequentialist, this sort of like starting with an assumption based on the end result, and then assuming that assumption is true, you get these weird realities, right? So you have the president of the United States saying, look, women get paid less per hour than men do. This is, and then the assumption there that's just sort of left hanging is it's because bosses are sexist and they want to pay men more. But then like you look into it, wow, has anybody considered that men work more hours, 7% more hours? Why wasn't that explained? Oh, and then look at like the kind of fields that different genders choose, and look at XYZ, and like you start like actually analyzing the causation of the wage gap, and you start to see all these explanations that shrink the wage gap significantly.
Right, and none of those explanations are randomness. So that's why I think it was not the example I would have gone with.
I'm not saying that the randomness. Right. But here's the point. Even when you control for all the things that we know to control for, you still get like a 1 to 2% gap, or I think it's like 3%, 1 to 3% gap in income between men and women. Now that we've looked at the causation for everything and we can't explain this 3% gap, let me ask you, do you think that it's possible that this gap is caused by randomness? Do you think it's possible it's caused by sexism? Do you think it's possibly caused by some other thing that we just don't know yet, that we haven't fully explored? How are we supposed to know what this small portion of the wage gap
That third thing is the most likely out of the three that you just said, is that third thing. But that's not where we were in that argument.
That's not randomness either, though.
That's not randomness.
And that's why when I was
you cannot rule out randomness. You cannot rule it out.
This is why when you were saying I was too stoned to even contribute a little bit ago, that's exactly what I said.
Are you stoned?
All these things. I am stoned.
I'm stoned.
There's all these things.
I'm pretty no matter what you ask the question,
doesn't mean you don't adhere to these rules.
But Lactoid, it might have just been random that he couldn't answer the question.
You cannot rule out randomness to explain.
Maybe it wasn't that he was stoned. Maybe it was just random chance that Gibbs didn't answer the question that way.
Wait. You're right. I can't rule that out, but given that he just said that he was stoned,
I know. I was just trying to make it.
I'm beginning to form a hypothesis.
Whoa! I'm stoned. That means nothing. You can't rule out people because they're stoned.
In fact, I think we should give them more credit. Credits, whatever. That's the word we're looking for. Whatever the word is, that's what we should be. They're more credible.
I think you should get credits.
My mind is open to more ideas than you are, Lactoid. That's how it works.
He's too close.
Is that what it does? It makes you open-minded. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'm pretty close-minded, so I wouldn't.
There are studies.
Maybe there are studies. Give me a study. Give me a study that.
Right here, I'm living proof.
See, I think pointing out all those other factors that might explain it, other than randomness, would have served your argument much better. I think going to randomness was the
reason why
I agree with you on those alternate explanations. 100%. We debate this all the time. We talk about
we're using luck. The reason why we were using luck is because it's very easy to understand in a hypothetical. Like you would agree that it
Oh,
could,
man.
it could, yeah, it
Not
could
not
be
in
the
your
Luck is
case.
so
hypothetical.
difficult to
No, for
understand. I
sure.
think we proved that luck is difficult to understand
No, it's
last
not.
week.
It's not difficult to understand. You would agree that there is that when you look at two people, one person makes more than the other. You would agree with me that it could be because one person just lucked out and made more money.
Ori, let me ask you: of all the classes that you took, I don't know what your experience was, but I was a psych major. Of all the classes that I took, the hardest one for me was stats. And it was because I had such a hard time grasping randomness, right? Like what you could attribute to randomness and what you could attribute to other things. I just didn't understand the math. And, I took pre-cal, I took number theory. There's a bunch of math classes I took, and it was stats that kicked my butt.
Yeah, stats is exceptionally difficult.
It's because I think maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't understand. I really don't understand statistical probabilities.
I like stats. That was my favorite.
Here, let me ask you this: do you think it's random?
I liked it too. It was a lot of fun, but I couldn't understand it.
Do you
I
think
mean,
it's
I understood how to determine whether or not a particular study was valid or not, but I didn't grok it. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't, like in my head, get it. I could do the calculations to get at the result, but that's kind of different than understanding, like intuitively.
So let me ask real quick. Rousseau, I think, used the term lottery of birth. Do you guys think that you can? Do you think it's like random or luck that you are born into a rich family?
Okay, so I was going to bring this up earlier because we do a lot of work with the veil of ignorance. John Rawls, and he talks about designing a world in which it is random where you will be placed or born. Like imagine you're outside of the universe. Maybe you're in like in Plato's Republic at the end where you die and you get to be reborn after spending some time in heaven or hell, and you get to come back and you get to. But what you cannot choose is where you exist in the world. That's part of John Rawls's like thought experiment. He says if you don't know where you will live, you don't know if you're going to be rich or poor, gay or straight. You don't know if you're going to be trans. You don't know what country you're going to be in. You don't know any of that stuff. If it's truly random where you'll be born, what kind of society would you design so that no matter where you live in it, you would have like a good chance?
Wait.
Right?
Something can be truly random. You just said.
Yeah, but no. That's what somebody else said. What I said is things can be random to you. Like if you don't understand the probabilities of something, then it's random to you.
Yeah, right. But you would agree with me that it's random if you'll be born into a rich family, right?
Right. It's right. From the perspective of the person who's being born, which is what the John Rawls thought experiment is, it's totally random where you're going to be born. Yeah, sure.
Totally random. I agree.
But it's not random.
You know, I remember before.
No, it's not random. Like from a universal standpoint, if like from the omniscient standpoint of God, like we know, like how cell division works. Like obviously, it's not random that one cell is going to be born to some other mother, right? But we're talking about from you. You don't know all that stuff before you're born. There's nothing that you have done. You don't choose your parents. But we can agree on that, right?
Hold on.
Yeah, but
I
yeah,
agree
hold
with
on.
Sam. Go ahead.
No, you go first. I agree.
I mean, I agree with Sam Kinison on this. Before I walked this shitty earth, I was a being of light. I knew neither happiness nor sadness nor pain nor suffering. And then my parents had to bring my ass down here.
And it wasn't Sam Kinison's fault that his parents fucked that day, right?
Yeah. Hold on.
I agree with Sam Kinison that we didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose to be born. And therefore, randomness is the only thing that matters.
But this only makes sense from a religious perspective, right? This only makes sense if you start with, right, well, there was a soul, right? And then I come down into a random body, right? From the perspective, there is no perspective. Like
you can think of that as a metaphor, Brian. You don't have to believe it. But the fact is, you did not choose to be born. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, sure. But that does. I'm like addressing. You guys are like just stating, you and Lactoid, right? That this is random, and this is like a weird way of putting together. This seems like a category error as to like what we apply the term random to, right? It's not as if my consciousness is like wholly separate from my body, and that my soul, whatever.
There is no consciousness, is the point, and therefore it's random to you because you don't have the ability to.
How is it random to me? That's not.
You keep using this term random to you, and I feel like that's a real problem. Like, because it's just random, or there is no randomness, right? Because you're going, okay, it's random to you. Like if I go play poker and I'm playing blackjack, right? It's random if I can't do statistics, right? That's your argument that whatever card.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's actually not true.
That's a really good metaphor.
And this is actually why this is actually a false metaphor, because there's still a statistical probability of what I'm going to get based off what's been played. Just because I don't know what those statistics are doesn't make it random. It might be random to me in that sense, but that randomness is just stupidity or ignorance. That's not actually randomness. There's a major problem with your little.
Okay. Now here's another metaphor that we all know about, right? Which is Lady Justice. Why does she wear blindfold?
Like why? How do you explain that?
I'm using your metaphor.
Okay.
So Lady Justice wears a blindfold, right? So that when she's judging a case, there's a bunch of stuff in that case that she's not supposed to pay attention to, right? Because Justice is blind. So that case is random to her. But there might be people involved in that case at other levels, maybe people who, keep track of different things that some are and some are not supposed to be considered in that trial. And the case is not random to them because they know a bunch of stuff. Like, for instance, there are certain things that the OJ jurors did not know when they were at their court. And they said later on, if we'd known this, we would have ruled a different way. But there's a reason why they're supposed to be blind to those things, because it's supposed to be, those things are supposed to have no impact on the case. It's supposed to be random from the perspective of the jurors. Do you see what I'm saying? So making yourself intentionally ignorant, that's why John Rawls calls it the veil of ignorance. Making yourself intentionally ignorant to some of these outcomes allow you to make a more fair choice, because you can't bias your choice with your knowledge.
It's not randomness, though. Just because you're making yourself intentionally ignorant to something doesn't mean that the outcome can be created by something random. You're
random
still
to
acting
you.
on a. No, it's not. There is no random to you. You're still acting on a set of variables, whether you're aware of those variables or not. It can't be random in that manner.
But those variables are not supposed to have an influence over your judgment. That's the point. So that if you want to call it something else, you can call it something else. But from your perspective, you can't say that this was the cause because it's being kept from you as a juror. So to you,
if I'm driving my car down the freeway and suddenly I can't see, it's not variable. It's not random that I suddenly drove into a wall. I drove into a wall because I can't see.
What's random?
No, it is. It is because now you're choosing. Now your choice as to where you're going to steer has now become random. Your ability to choose where to drive. You can't drive you can't. If all of your choices are random, then Jesus take the wheel, right? If we let Jesus actually take the wheel, we're going to die. Because at every single moment that what that car does is more random than if we have somebody who's in the driver's seat who's making choices that they can choose from, that they can pick from.
I was the one that was too stoned here.
He's about to call us home, apparently. Yeah. No.
Gibbsy, I just got more high. I'm joining you.
Yeah, I disagree. Like, the more you talk, Echo, the more I disagree with your standpoint of randomness here.
Okay.
Like I
said, you can call it something else. I don't care about the semantics.
I think we should call it something else, because again, I think we're having another category error here, right?
We can call it Gibbs. Okay. You have to have a Gibbsian veil on.
I'm just
Gibbs, don't take the wheel.
Well, I mean, look, when I became suspicious when Lacto had agreed with you, right? I'm like, okay, this must be wrong, right? So
what did I agree
you got a good point
what
there.
What did I agree with?
The whole thing about it's random where you get born into, right? Like, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, so you would agree that, like, you see behind you, like, from your eyes, right? Like, you are you. Do you would agree with that?
I would agree that.
You'd have to think about it.
So do you agree that, like, it's like the fact that you were born as you and not as, like, some, I don't know, like, ultra rich playboy.
This is a phenomenological.
This was randomness.
Perspective.
Like, you could have been born and seeing from behind your eyes, except your eyes are now driving.
What is you, Lactoid? What is you, Lactoid?
Yeah, this is getting real philosophical.
Like, hold on. You is a personhood made up of all your life experiences, and all this stuff, right? The only reason you exist is because X, Y, Z happened before, right? You can even argue that the you that you are now is not the same you that was existing 10 minutes ago. Like,
here, let me ask you this. Classic hypothetical. Classic hypothetical. If I can make an exact clone of you with every single memory and every single experience, like the memory of every experience you've ever had.
Totally different person.
Okay. Totally different person. Why?
Because they're cloning me.
I know that they're a clone
the
of
minute
you.
they exist in the same universe as me.
Damn, he had the quickest answer.
Yeah, horrible. It doesn't make sense with your prior answer though. So I make an identical clone of you, and then
yeah, this is Riker and his brother.
Yeah, and then would you be okay with me killing the original you?
No, because they're two different people.
What makes you you, as opposed to your clone that has everything identical?
Here's what makes my clone my clone. He's my clone. Even if we have everything exactly the same.
I'll be right
Once
back.
you have two separate entities, they become two things. The causation is the making of the second one. I don't understand how you can try to argue this is a random. It's dumb. One can't exist without the come on, my son.
Right. So you are agreeing that there is some kind of difference. Maybe you're not able to like really specify because this is a difficult question. And some people, no, it's not a simple question.
You can't specify the difference between yourself and a clone.
Stop.
I mean, I already had the answer before.
There's some people. No, you didn't. There's some people like Synth, for example, where Synth's argument is that all identity is an illusion, right? And that actually you're not experiencing yourself in the way that you think you are. You're simply like a machine that believes it's experiencing itself. It's like that's Synth's belief. I think that's pretty doom and gloom. It's possible, I guess, but we're rolling with the assumption here because
with what we're talking about right now.
Because I'm explaining, right? If somebody were to offer me a clone of me and then kill me, I would not take that deal. This is the classic Star Trek transporter problem, because I wouldn't want to die. And someone might say, but Lactoid, you would live. This is an exact identical clone of you. Prestige, Star Trek, but plenty of shows and movies that try to deal with this concept. What does it mean to be you? What does it mean to see from behind your eyes? If you make a clone, I'm not seeing from behind those eyes. That's the clone seeing behind the clone's eyes. I am seeing from behind my eyes. So it can't just be your experiences, because that clone has all the same identical experiences, all the same identical memory, all the same identical DNA, every single thing down to an atom. Down to an atom, they are identical in every single way, except they hold a different position in time space, right? And so then the question is, if you could be born seeing from behind your eyes in the way that you do now, but to the family of a multi-billionaire, okay, super rich, ridiculously rich, you would agree that like the fact that you were born to your current family as opposed to the family of a multi-billionaire was random.
No,
I mean,
no. Oh, sorry. I mean,
no. It's not
yeah. So,
like the minute they exist in space time, it's like at the same different position in space time. It's no longer random. Like the minute they exist, they have a separate identity or whatever. So it's like
when you move, when you hold on, the Earth is spinning at how many miles an hour? Are you constantly shifting identities?
I mean, one can argue yes. Yeah, every second is a new you. Every meter. I mean.
So then why even care if you die? Why even care about death? It's a different person that's going to die in the future.
Check this out. Atheists argue that the Big Bang started with nothing, right? Nothing created the Big Bang, right? I'm paraphrasing. Boom, it blows up. What happens when you die? Nothing. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like this comedian saw this. That sounds like you return to your creator. You know, that guy's right. I think that's where we're at. You're always a new person every second. Nothing's random. So
nobody should fear death, because the person that's going to die is not going to be you.
I'd like to on. So we're going to have to move on to the actual topic at hand in a second here.
Do we though?
I just have one question for Corey, but you go ahead.
Well, sure, but I just want to attack this. I disagree with Gibbs here on that. Like, I think there's a continuity of consciousness.
Good way to get to the next topic.
It's a continuity of consciousness.
That's the best way to get to the topic.
That's not what I'm arguing. I'm not saying it's like. I'm just saying you could argue that. That's not my argument. It's just
okay. So well, to be clear, I'm not like each moment we're like a new person. There's a continuity, right? Like the next second, I'm still going to have the still experiences and still tendencies that I still have now, right? I won't randomly have the tendencies of like a billionaire or a conservative, right? Or any other despicable category. Like I'll still be me. But like, so there's that. But to say it's random, I think whether I will be born or not would be random, right? In terms of like even then it might even be pseudo random at best, right? But like in terms of like the specific sperm, meaning that specific egg, and then combining that specific way, to make my genetics and to birth me, right? Like, and that one night of passion. Oh God. Like, but like that seems random, but not whether I would maybe have been like Grid's kid, right? Grid's has a son. Like that's not random. That I would have ended up there. Like that's like it yeah. It's to the and like it ties like with like obviously like our ignorance as to like how consciousness ties is tied with our body. But I think there must be some sort of like link there, because I think form like uh determines purpose and operation, right? Like um would I be the same person like if um uh, I was if the sperm and the egg had been damaged, right, by like because my parents had been exposed to some sort of chemicals, right? Like the same sperm, same egg, but they had been damaged in some way,
Might be
right? And
Spider-Man.
something came out, a viable child came out, but would that still be me? Like yeah, like maybe not, right? Like I don't know. But like it's not random as to terms of like where my consciousness ends up. My consciousness could never have ended up coming out of Corey's parents' union, their night of passion.
You don't want my parents.
Yeah, like I just yeah. So I don't know. But so you wanted to say something to Corey? Then
Yeah. So Corey gave a definition of randomness, right, which was predictability. That's something can be predicted. And which implies that there is a predictor, there is a person who's doing the prediction. So if you're doing this from the point of view of omniscience, right, which now I kind of understand where Gibbs is coming from, because if you believe that you are God, then nothing can be random, right, because you can predict anything. But there are those of us who are somewhat south of where Gibbs is in the in the scale of divinity, who we can't predict certain things, or the degree to which we could predict it is so like minuscule that it might as well be zero, like from our perspective. And that's what we're talking about when we say something can be random to you. It's not that there's nothing in the force that you can look at maybe after the fact and say, oh, this person was born because this happened and that happened, right? But there is this sort of sliding doors effect where the complexity of something gets so great that it becomes virtually impossible, really actually impossible to predict it. That's the kind of randomness that I'm talking about. It's phenomenological. It has to do with whether or not you can predict a thing, which means we're talking about the abilities of the predictor. So if you want to say something is not truly random, what you're saying is somebody out there predicted this or could have predicted this. And there are things that we cannot predict. And that's what I mean by random. Now, maybe that's different from the way Lactoid understands it. But yeah, I absolutely think that it's funny that I say absolutely, because what I'm saying is there are no absolutes. I'm not saying there's no randomness. I'm saying there's no absolutes. In other words, there's not a mind out there that can predict these incredible unlikely
so
things.
you would agree then with the statement that anything's random so far as you don't have that enough information, right? So you're saying there's at some point there's enough information that you can be given to make something not random, no matter what it is, right? Because
everybody knows that quote.
With a certain set of rules, right?
Everybody knows that quote from Arthur C. Clarke, where he says that a sufficient amount of science will be such that it's indistinguishable from magic.
Right,
what makes magic is that it's random, is that you can't predict it, you can't explain it, right? And so if you were to give a ray gun to a caveman, that from the perspective of that caveman, it's totally random. Like Corey, as a scientist, might understand how the ray gun works, but he's not the caveman, and the caveman to the caveman, it's totally random. It's impossible to predict.
No,
yeah, I don't agree with
that. The more you talk about it, like the more I disagree that like we can.
So who predicted that Prime would exist? before you were born.
I don't think you have to. You're just stating that as a stipulation. I don't think anyone had to have been able to predict my birth. I mean, I think it was. Look, I mean, if we're gonna be honest, right? If we're gonna look in the real world, I think it was predicted within the tomes of the divine text, right? That I would come down.
Yes, if you believe in God, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you just talked yourself into theism.
But the point is that like I don't think that's
one way or another. It always comes full circle.
As
it is the evolutionists that point to randomness.
Like I don't think anyone has to predict something for it to have been random or not random. And maybe all this is.
Well, then you agree with Gibbs that there's no such thing as randomness.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I'm actually might be approaching that there really is no such thing as random.
Congratulations on your divinity.
But no, I don't need to. It's not that I need to understand the rest of it. I'm saying that like there's just a level of just because a system is like so utterly complex, I can't figure it out, right? Like once you shrunk it down to like the idea of like the ray gun, right? And
right,
you know, that appearing to be magic. One, I disagree with your definition of magic, but even still, with working with
it's Arthur C. Clarke's definition of magic, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. The caveman just doesn't understand. It's a complex system that he doesn't understand, but that's clearly not right. And so we can scale that up to the entire universe. Just because I can't, or no a known observer can understand its complexity, doesn't make any it random, right? Like it's a system that's working on laws, right? That has like interactions, some that we understand currently, some that we don't, right? But happening on so many levels that we don't have the ability to calculate it, probably without building another universe, right? To do so, but still, that doesn't mean any
God's
of it's
grand plan for my life. Yeah, that would be something that would,
Feels good to be on the winning side, doesn't it, Prime?
As always, right? Once you just like given the gift.
I will see you at Mass next week, Prime. I will see you at Mass.
All right.
Wait, no, come to the mosque first.
Oh yeah.
Ramadan's
hey, that's
next
perfect.
week.
You can go to his on Saturday, and you can come to mine on Sunday.
Ramadan's next week, you know, Friday.
Go get high with Ali at the mosque.
That's why Ali's filling up on chips because he's got it ready.
You respect the Lord's house.
I've heard, I've seen. In fact, I was like over the last week, I saw a few videos featuring some Muslim women, and they were like super hot. So hopefully we can find that in your place, right? Like really hot.
Yeah, Muslims, Latinas, you know, it's a good looking mix.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But they're gonna have veils on, Prime. You might not like
that. Sometimes not.
That's something that we Catholics did too. Like for a long, long time, is you were supposed to cover up when you went to church. That stopped in the '60s. But
listen, there are
part of,
you know, there are cultural Muslims and secular Muslims. You know, there are people who are just like, you know, they were just born here, man.
Yeah.
They just do the wrap, you know, around the quick wrap, and they're good to go. I'm looking for them. But okay. See what's under that modest clothing.
With consent.
With consent.
This is why they consent. Great reformation at the church now, right? You see people like this going to church just for hedonistic reasons. I approve.
Women do look their best at church. That is true.
I'll take your word for it.
Husbands after their failed flings, you know.
As long as they're mating and copulating, man.
Let's move on.
That's all we're looking for here.
Topic at hand, all right? And it's sort of in this ballpark, very obliquely. But before
we did kind of come around full force, you know.
Everyone,
full circle.
Thank you for being here. This is Over Roundtable Show. Monday is 8 p.m. Eastern. Once again, we had a little of a pregame topic there. To be fair, I didn't bring it up.
I'll fully take full blame that.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. You can blame Corey. I wasn't going to beat you up yet. I found another reason to disagree with you, but I was going to attack you again. But if you guys enjoyed that conversation, which was actually quite different from the ones we usually have, we don't usually argue on these grounds. Much more philosophical than we oftentimes get. Consider supporting the channel.
I like
Subs
about
to
it.
the channel. Give bits or give subs. If you're on YouTube, consider using Super Chat. And we can respond to your questions. I am on the lookout. Thank you. What's it? Wolf Raza for following the channel earlier. Thank you so much. And if you haven't followed the channel, consider doing that and making sure notifications are on so you know when we're going live. Love to have you. Okay. So we are going to get started. The topic is last year, police in a small Ohio town made an arrest during a drug bust. They accused a suspect of hiding drugs in their anus. To retrieve the alleged evidence, the police took the suspect to a local Catholic hospital for a body cavity search. However, the hospital staff refused on moral, ethical, and religious grounds. The hospital is now facing charges for defying a court order and have suffered other repercussions for this decision. Do you agree with the actions of the medical staff? What should be the limit of the state's ability to compel behavior? Should people be able to reject court orders because of supposed ethical conflicts? Should there be some sort of punishment when that happens? And if so, what would that look like? So yeah, I came across this article. Um, this hospital, like the staff felt that it's like it's possibly dangerous. Let's say like it was cocaine in a baggie, right? That was up his bum. They were afraid that, well, doing a cavity search, we could possibly pierce the bag, and then it could, immediately go into his bloodstream, especially through the anus, right? Just, straight to the bloodstream, and then he could just like die of an overdose. Um, and also that, like, because the patient also the suspect also refused. Like, one, we don't want to, perform medical action against a person against their will, and we got religious reasons for. I'm not really sure what the religious reasons were, but still, they don't want to do that. And they felt an acceptable compromise was simply waiting for him to pass, right? Like, so like he was guy stuck in the hospital, right? And they can keep track of his stool, right? So they're like, well, we'll just like see like his next a few stools and see if anything comes out. But the police didn't seem to like that at all. Especially, but they did have like I think according to the story, like a warrant, right? Like a court order for the cavity search or whatever. But they just refused to do that. So yeah, I wanted to explore like what can the state compel of us, right? Because I'm sure everyone here has a limit as to like, okay, this is too far. What can be compelled, right? But where is that? I think it's probably going to be very different for us all. And how do you justify, right, going up to that limit and not one step further? So yeah, we'll get started. You can opening statements and introduce yourself at the same time. So if you're Lactoid.
Yeah, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV, where we go over all of the correct way to engage with hypotheticals. So today's topic here, we're going to be talking about drugs. Great topic, and really the limits on state power. And I struggle with this one. I struggle with this one a lot because, on one hand, just like taxes, just like injunctions, and along for a lot of reasons, the state forcing you to do labor for them is pretty fucked up. In fact, it is a sort of micro form of slavery, right? There's a lot of things that the state mandates people do for critical reasons that are technically micro versions of slavery, right? Jury duty. They force you to go and do work for them against your will, even if you don't want to. A lot of people don't want to. They try to get out of jury duty because it is a form of micro slavery. A less form, I think it's larger. It's also a form of slavery. Would be the draft, right? In fact, I think that's pretty bad, right? You're putting a gun in somebody's hands and forcing them into a combat zone where they very well could die. I think it's one of the worst kinds of labor that you can be forced to do, and that's just a given, right? Because the state has deemed it necessary for the state's survival. So, we have examples of drafting, of jury duty, of and of course all the taxes that go towards all public goods, etc. All of that is basically a form of labor expropriation. That's what it is. You're mandating that certain labor be done against the person's will, and that be expropriated in order to fulfill some kind of common purpose. Here, the question is one of, okay, well, what if the state needs to do its job in regards to drugs? Now, obviously, drugs should be legal, but assuming that they are illegal and the state has some kind of interest, hypothetically, let's say, the state has some kind of interest in enforcing laws against drugs, well, they should, of course, be able to search people for drugs. And if they're hiding the drugs in their anus, you're going to have to go into someone's anus to get the drugs, just like if they had any kind of contraband. You can't be like, well, I don't, I may have drugs in there, but I don't give you permission to go up in there, because that's the only way that they're getting the drugs, assuming that, of course, you would just poop it out. In this case, I don't know why they just didn't potentially wait for that. Maybe it was really stuck up in there. So the answer that I want to give is that no, a hospital should not be forced to provide any kind of treatment. They shouldn't be forced to provide abortions. They shouldn't be forced. It's a Catholic hospital. They shouldn't be forced to provide any kind of service. No hospital should be forced to provide any kind of service. But what if it is critical to the functioning of a law enforcement role, and law enforcement is one of the few domains that we accept the state to have? Well, ideally, we would, again, let them say fuck you. But what if every single hospital says fuck you? Then how are the cops going to enforce their job? Like, how is anybody in the government going to be able to enforce their job here without having some kind of like centralized government hospital where they specifically do these kind of searches? That's a tough problem. That's a very tough problem. And I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that currently in the United States, there's a lot more than just these Catholic hospitals that would do it. So I think the state should have to exhaust their options with other medical providers before they move on to this kind of mandates for everybody to do what they want. Now, if it really gets to the point where there's nobody that'll do it, we can start having those tough conversations. But in my mind, the way to minimize the amount of force we're making people do, we should first exhaust every other medical provider that it could be willing to do it, and then go from there. So I disagree with the government in this case. I don't think that they sufficiently went to potential alternatives to do the drug search.
Thanks so much, Ali.
Yeah, I go by sociologic. If you want to see me engage with the crazy hypotheticals that Lactoid throws out, I'm here Mondays, always. But on the topic, yeah, no. First of all, I didn't know that cops could make any doctor forcibly sodomize someone for drugs because it's in someone's ass. Fuck that. If they want to take the potential lawsuit or harm or ethic or moral that comes with that, they can take them to the jail and stick their fingers in their ass and take it out, and they can deal with the consequences of that action if it's that important and that severe that you need to get the drugs out right now. Because if you take this and turn it around and say it was a girl, I don't think anyone would want anyone shoving their finger in a vagine to pull out the drugs. I think we would just wait till they came out of natural causes. I don't know if they would fall out eventually, but yeah, no, I don't think the cops can have someone forcibly, especially not for like drugs. If this is like a murder case and they shove the weapon up their ass, maybe, like maybe I'd be like, yeah, we got to get this weapon out. They're gonna hold it for dear life. But like, I mean, like, yeah, also, like, you could just X-ray. It will eventually come out. Like, you can't hold for that long. But yeah, take the responsibility upon yourself. It's extreme circumstances. Drugs aren't a severe enough reason for me to tell a third party to perform sodomy just so that you can get your little drug baggie. No, we can wait it out, and that's why that's the like religious reason, like that they'd probably throw out Prime, is that like we're not performing sodomy. Fuck that. But yeah, no, if the cops want the drugs that badly, they can themselves.
Okay. I'm curious what a biology class led by Professor Ali would look like.
Sign me up. I got the wrong education.
What was I wrong about anything? What I say?
It's just no. Don't worry. I just think it would be fun.
You just meant you're entertaining. You didn't mean that you were wrong.
Yeah. Don't leave that alone. But next, our friend Gibbs, please. He knows how a woman's vagina works. Ain't that right, Gibbs?
Yeah. Let me
It's
tell you.
random.
I'll tell you one other thing is that there's about 2 words for what the government can compel me to do if I decide I'm not doing it, and that's fuck all. Like I'm telling you right now, they ain't gonna be able to make me do shit. There's a reason why Texas is the one state that says come and take it. Are we fully believing might makes right? Like they might maybe make some stuff an inconvenience for you. They're gonna make me go to court. If I'm sorry, they're not gonna make me finger pop somebody's asshole to find some drugs if I'm a doctor. It just is not gonna happen. Luckily, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a religious doctor. But the point is, though, regardless, they're just not gonna be able to make me do shit in that regard. And anybody that advocates that they should and they're confused about it is a commie.
Thank you for that, Gibbs. As always, I apologize for anyone who ever has to go after Gibbs. But our friend Grid is here, and we missed him. We didn't have him last week. Or I think the week before too. I think, but still, one or the other. Thank you for being here, Grid.
Yeah, sorry I was absent a couple of weeks. I last week I was at DebateCon in New Jersey, so
Hell yeah.
unfortunately couldn't be here for that. So this is to me this is I don't even know that there's a real debate here to be had simply because they literally were asking to violate a lot of constitutional premises, and not just the First Amendment, but the 13th Amendment, as Lactoid said. There's a lot of different things there, but we don't even have to go quite that deep. The state cannot compel a medical professional to do anything. They can punish them if they don't, if a court decides such as a case, but they would have a horrible time trying to convince a judge that a doctor saying stop and wait for this to happen naturally, in my medical opinion, is the correct way to go. Like the cops are completely wrong in this case. They're absolutely wrong. I have no idea why they were in such an impatient stance, and they were really abusing their authority. To be honest, I believe they risk and they are being sued by the hospital. Um, just as a something that I didn't hear you mention, maybe you did, and I just skipped over it. Uh, they actually did a CT scan on the man that showed no foreign object, and that wasn't enough to assuage the cops. Now, that in and of itself, without the patient's permission, is a violation of that patient's rights. Patients have rights, and they do. So, unfortunately, as much as I generically tend to side with law and order, there was no law and there was no order in this case. They suspected a drug deal of happening. They already had foregone a conclusion of a drug deal happening, and they were simply trying to prove what they wanted to prove. Damned the law. Just let's just go with what we want to have happen. As far as uh, as far as the people involved, um, it's hospitals. The hospital president actually was well within his right to refuse the treatment under the First Amendment. There's nothing the hospital did wrong, but as always, it has to be. You have to remember that sometimes battles aren't worth the war, right? Because you can beat the rap, but can you beat the ride? How much is this going to cost the hospital? How much is this? How much is this? How much are they going to suffer in legal fees? They say they're already being their police force was disbanded. They've suffered other censure in the community. So again, they stood their ground. I think they did the right thing. They're probably going to just come out on the right side in court. But they're still taking the ride. They're still going to spend the money. They're still going to spend the time. And the fact that law enforcement can abuse their authority in such a way and cause this kind of damage to a hospital is pretty dramatic to me. And just I'm just gonna leave you with that a government that is literally up your butt is way too powerful, and we don't need that.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder. Okay, that's quite interesting. In terms of that CT scan. So I'm just gonna read to the audience so they understand the exact nuance here. The officers took Harris, the suspect, to Mercy Health Lorraine Hospital, the hospital in question, where a CT scan noted something in Harris's bowels, but did not indicate if it was a foreign object. The hospital said. So it could have, like, I'm guessing that just like was a shadow like in his bowels. But like there could have just been poop, like the usual thing that's there. But so
What?
there was no like definitive, like it wasn't like the weapon that like
It's
Ali.
inconclusive.
Yeah, it is inclusive. Yeah, like it wasn't like shaped like a knife, like it was a weapon. I was like, oh, okay, well then that's a spot,
Or a
right?
baggie
But
of drugs.
Well, a
yeah,
baggie of
baggie of
drugs
drugs.
probably looks like shit, right?
Yeah, baggie of drugs probably looks like probably looks
Like
like
a
poop.
stool, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So but
Little.
so
The
inconclusive.
envelope would
So
be more reflective, though.
reflective.
From the CT scan, wouldn't it show up differently because the CT scan's not like an X-ray?
That's
Um,
true.
But
yeah,
like, wait,
but
even if
And I would think that a glassine baggie in your rectum would glow like a fucking like a
I'm not
LED
sure if it
nightlight.
glows in the CT
like
scan.
he's saying
I'm not.
reflect like something would reflect off of like whatever laser or ray was shooting off of it.
There would be a way to image it. Not sure if it's X-ray or something else, but there would be a way to image it because it wouldn't have the exact same density as the guts of a human body.
Yeah.
You could image it through
But I don't know if a
colonoscopy, that's
CT
for
will
sure.
do that. Yeah, colonoscopy will do that. But all right. Well, anyway, our friend Corey, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. What I do have to say is I actually feel unsafe right now since we have both Gibbs and iCal, where if I get measles, I'm blaming either one of you in this call, because for
That's
sure
right.
it's going to be contagious. But yeah, as
You can
alluded
blame
to
me
in...
too.
are
You have the
sick?
measles.
You could blame lactoid more than you could us. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure Gibbs is pro-vaccine.
Oh, okay, well,
I
now
like
I'm
vaccines
happy to
for
hear it.
me when I want them.
What you want? But yeah, as alluded to, I think Lactoid and others of like this is a really complex matter. And I don't know exactly where the line is, but I would say so far based off of what I read in the story and like pretty much I think what everyone else is like, yeah, the police have like crossed the line, and that's too much intervention. And I sort of side with what Ali outlined in terms of like if they want to get the evidence, then the cops have to do it. This might actually now, let's say, encourage cops, and now we have to force cops to have more training to actually do cavity searches. And I guess what I would say is like, if we have cops doing this, which they should take it in their own hands to do it, they're going to be held liable, as in if the patient dies, like that's on them, and they should suffer the consequences for that. If they damage the patient during the cavity search, then that's on them, and they should be held accountable for that. And then maybe that ups the stakes in terms of whether a cop actually wants to pursue a cavity search, because then it's going to be on them, as opposed to it's easy to just say, well, hey, the doctor does it, if the doctor doesn't want to do it. I see that so far off the top of my head as like the most, at least a compromise that I can see somehow working, maybe. And yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
I'm not sure if I said this before, if anyone else said this afterwards. But to be clear, no drugs were ever found from the suspect, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
And
So
they did sample his stool. Like they kept him there for like 3 days.
yeah, they kept him there for a while, and eventually he was like let
And that's
go.
a whole other question. How long should they be able to detain you?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. But so just to be clear, they never found it, and the guy's out free right now. So yeah, let's go to our friend Aiko.
So I'm glad we all seem to agree on this. Maybe what I'm about to say will help us like get to something else where we disagree more. I don't know, but this is a Catholic hospital, and recently, like very recently, like in the last few days, there was a papal letter in response to Vance's claim. Vance made this strange claim that that Christians should care about people close to them first, and then with each like degree of separation between them and the other, they should care less and less. So like people who are on the other side of the world from you, for instance, are the people that you need to care the least about, and that's our focus should be on caring about. His claim was just citizens, right? We should care about them. It's part of the America First thing, I suppose, like trying to make it work with the Gospels. But he's Catholic. J.D. Vance is Catholic. So Francis responded specifically with a letter to the U.S. bishops. And the U.S. bishops are not exactly on the left; they're pretty darn conservative. But he sent them a letter, and they've been reacting to this letter like positively with Francis. And part of it read, "God will richly reward all that you do for the protection and defense of those who are considered less valuable, less human." Less important or less human. I exhort all of the faithful of the Catholic Church and all men and women of goodwill not to give in to the narratives that discriminate against and cause unnecessary suffering, or discriminate and cause unnecessary suffering. So I think that I don't know if this this Catholic hospital was in any way like responding to the order that came from the Pope on this, but it certainly sounds consistent with that order, which is if the government steps in and tells you to do something in the name of law and order or whatever it may be, if it violates like the human dignity to do that thing, then it is your responsibility to resist. In this case, we all agree with the choice of the hospital to resist in this particular instance. But there will be more cases like this, many more of them. Some of you, on whether you are on the left or on the right, you might have different reasons to agree or disagree with it. Right? The Catholic Church has had these fights over, for instance, abortion. Somebody comes in and demands an abortion. Can you, as a Catholic doctor, say, I can't do this, go somewhere else? Like, let somebody who's not Catholic perform this procedure because it goes against my religious conscience. But also, like, if you're being told, listen, I had to take my mother to the ER last week, and she's fine, everything's fine. But, and I think Prime knows this because I mentioned it to him. One of the things they asked is they said, hey, we have a new question on our intake forms that just like came to us like very, very recently from the federal government. I have to ask you if you are in the country legally. And of course, I immediately answered yes, because my mother is a citizen and wasn't anything. But it just occurred to me that, wow, there's going to be hospitals all over the country, some of whom will not add this question to their intake, despite being ordered to by the federal government. And so in a lot of these questions, we're going to have to ask ourselves, who do you trust more, government or the church? And I suppose that's a highly context-dependent question for a lot of people. They're going to give a different answer depending on what the topic is. But I think ultimately, especially over the next 4 years, we're going to see more and more sort of war of words between the government as it tries to pursue new priorities and the church as it tries to continue to live by its own moral standards.
Okay, thank you. Open to the panel.
I think we all agree.
I was about to say, yeah.
Do we all agree?
But
well, I think there's some minor.
We all agree on this topic for sure, what this hospital did. But do we agree in the larger debate?
I think you have to get to the large debate, yeah, because I don't think these specific actions appear to be like unnecessarily just there's so many other alternatives, right?
Very over the top, yeah.
They could have found a different hospital. They could have waited. I don't understand in this case why body cavity surgery was even necessary. I mean, there was a couple things that they could have done that I guess they seem very insistent on just not doing. Now, if a court orders you to do something, you should probably do it. But like, I don't know, maybe that can be the point of disagreement.
So two things.
I don't know if you read the article, Lactoid, but in the.
But what if the court's wrong?
Like, what do you mean if the court should tell you to do something, you should do it?
The court
they were wrong.
You remember on this panel, I actually showed this clip on stream earlier this week. We were talking about how the Supreme Court wanted to stop Texas from doing shit with the border, and I said that you catch these hands. I stand by that statement.
I disagreed with you on that. Remember that?
I can't help it.
I think Texas should have had to follow the Supreme Court.
Comes down here, and they want to tell us what's up on a situation we know they're wrong on. They catch these hands too. Again, to this day.
So you just bow down at any time the government says something?
I'm sorry that I'm not willing to be a baby back bitch like Lactoid is.
Wait, anytime the court says something, you just have to bow?
Sorry, Grid was talking.
I thought this was a miracle.
Grid.
All that's cool, but the thing is that one of the reasons why the hospital would not perform the search is the guy said, "I don't consent to this. This is not. I'm not okay with this." And there is a law. There is a law in place, and I happen to know this because when before my brother passed, my mom tried to call the sheriff to have the sheriff come out and with an ambulance and force my brother to seek treatment. They literally told him if if a human being is awake and can respond and says, I don't want help, we can't force them to seek help. That works both ways. If the patient says, no, you're not sticking your fingers up my butt, I don't want you to do that, the hospital has to respect that. That's in their code. That's in their, that is
if they're of sound mind. Yes.
Also the cops were wrong. So it's like if they did do that.
So by waiting,
well, that's not
all
really,
that was, there was nothing lost.
That's
here.
not really
there was
what
nothing lost here except the cops get a
How?
black eye.
It's absolutely relevant.
Dick.
Wait, we always talk about post rationalization.
It's not relevant to the question.
It's 100% relevant that they were wrong. So they profiled someone. They took them in. They tried to make a doctor forcibly sodomize him for the drugs that were up his ass. And yeah, that wrong.
Yeah. It makes it feel more like makes it feel like
no, it doesn't make it feel more
you get angry. You get more
fact of the matter
you get more incensed about it. But
the facts don't care about the feelings. They were wrong.
The question is not were they right or wrong about this guy having drugs. The question is, do they have the right to do this?
Wait,
well,
no.
Are you
saying to do this because they're not competent enough to get it right?
Ollie, are you saying that the cops only have the right to search for drugs if they find drugs?
Honestly, I think 9 times out of 10, cops. If there's no problem, if the probable cause is, I think he put him in his ass. Yeah, you need evidence.
The whole point of a search.
You need evidence.
Well, hold on. The cop said that he saw him do it.
Probable cause, I think, is what.
So the cop can say whatever the fuck he wants.
Let's be clear that
what kind of evidence are you looking for?
Issue 2 warrants.
With the drugs
to search his anus.
Yeah, they were looking for the drugs.
Refused.
Let's change the hypothetical slightly. All right. Let's make order.
Why this isn't a hypothetical? Let's engage with the actual situation. Why
because we agree. Because we agree on the situation.
No, we don't. We don't. I said, and they were wrong, and you're like, well, that doesn't really matter. It completely matters.
The question of whether or not they should be able to do it.
Yes, it speaks to their judgment.
What's the point of it? What is the point of a search? What do you search?
If a judge issued a warrant,
that I trust your judgment enough to believe that the person I'm searching has drugs.
Would you allow that to go through, Lactoid?
What would you say one time, Gibbs?
If a judge issued a warrant, and this was like the law, they said, hey, you have to let that man fuck you in the ass. Would you do it just because the judge issued the warrant? I mean, that's the argument you're making.
Well, you know.
Wait a minute.
He should have...
I believe in the Constitution. I'm an originalist.
Argument, but this is like
I'm an originalist, and so
you're like, hey,
I would do an emergency appeal to the appellate court for an unconstitutional.
Oh, so you're not an originalist? What if it was the Supreme Court?
The originalist, an original interpretation of the Constitution and all law would never mandate someone to come fuck me in the ass, okay?
Well, that's what they're doing here.
Why? That's literally what's happening.
It's
just finger fucking.
It's okay. Hold on.
Fucking light.
No,
it is finger fucking because they have to massage.
There wasn't drugs in there. It literally would have been the equivalent to just getting a finger in your ass.
What if there was? Then the finger's still in your ass.
But here's the thing: there wasn't.
But let's say there was
for the drugs, literally.
Hypothetically. This is what we're going to engage.
You still shouldn't be able to forcibly tell a doctor to force their finger up the.
All right.
Now here's the thing.
What if I
you want to know why?
Put the drugs in there?
Do you want? No. This is why. This is why because the judgment of the person coming to me, if they can be wrong sometimes, and so like this cop can come to me and say, "Hey, I saw him put so much cocaine in his ass."
Because you can be wrong sometimes makes you never credible.
Yeah.
Because they were in fact wrong, and because.
Cops are human, bro. Cops are humans. They're idiots.
The current doctrine legally is it's better to miss 1,000 times than imprison the wrong guy one time.
Big based.
Yeah. So hold on.
Look at Daddy Grid One coming in for the kill.
Keep in mind, if we're gonna roll with this, we're never gonna be able to convict anybody on rape offenses anymore.
Yeah.
That goes out the window. Because we cannot guarantee that 1 out of 1,000 isn't going to be wrong. About 2% of people who are convicted, which is much more than 1 in 1,000.
Or we just get better at, or we just get better at trying rape cases.
There's like a missing child, right? And like the cop sees them, like the suspect actually like struggling to get this child into their house, right? Like, and then close the door, and then you can't issue a warrant, right? Because he only saw.
You could be wrong. The cop was wrong before,
right? it's possibly that could be his child, right? They
It's
look
a
exactly
violation
like
of my house. You're raping my house.
Yeah. You're raping the house. Issuing a warrant for a house check is completely different than issuing a fucking colonoscopy. Okay.
What if I'm hiding the kid?
You can't legally mandate a colonoscopy.
I don't hide my
can't do it, brother. I
don't hide my secrets in my anus. I hide in my house, right? So actually, it might be worse. I'd actually rather be secret in the butt than search my house.
What if I'm hiding a dirty bomb in my butthole? Can you search for it there, Ali?
No.
Now it makes it dirty.
No.
If you brought someone with a dirty bomb stuck up their ass to my hospital, I would kick you out of my hospital and take you. Get the fuck away from me. I'm not putting my finger
Should anybody on suspicion, let's say they had an 85% chance of being right, not 1 in 1,000.
They had an 85%. How do you get those odds?
But okay, it's a dirty bomb. Somebody saw
you drive it out to the middle of the desert, let them blow up, bro.
No. Hey, whoa. It's not going to blow up on its own. They are going to be able to reach in and pull it out on their own accord and detonate it.
Now, when the person when you do that, are you willing to take the risk of that person going, "Hey, this officer just raped me"? Take the risk and stick your finger in his ass if you're willing to risk that 15% of being wrong.
At some point,
yeah.
A dirty bomb, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what a dirty bomb is.
It's a bomb that releases radioactive material without necessarily being nuclear. It's like a serious weapon.
How big of a bomb could that be?
I'm supposed to be the expert on this shit.
A dirty bomb for the room, bro. Like what are you worried about here? You see, he doesn't have the fucking Hiroshima.
Yeah, if you have a suspected terrorist in front of you, I mean, sure, at all costs, protect our great nation. But you're willing to take the risk of sodomizing. I don't know.
That's an icon.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say if we agree with the specific example of this hospital, right? If we go maybe a little step from this, because I think a lot of us agree with the hospital because we agree with the particular point that I'm not sure we all agree on, and maybe this example is what's hiding the disagreement, and that is stop and frisk, right? If it really is if the big problem with this is consent. Obviously, people who are frisked in the stop and frisk program, the cop doesn't even have to have cause to do it. They can just do it at random, and they certainly don't have the consent of the person that they're frisking.
Well, it's random, but every time they're black. So, I don't know how random it is if every
random.
Time they're black.
Wait a minute.
Who here is in favor of stop and frisk? Okay, what's your point? So nobody here is in favor.
Well, I just wanted to see if we had any stop and frisk people in here.
Well,
I don't know.
What do you?
Scott's in favor.
Let me. I guess clarify. When you
a lot of people on this panel voted for the stop and frisk president, so I just wanted to.
Just when you say stop and I'm okay. I'm okay if the cops have a lawful reason to stop you. I think that they're fine in frisking you for weapons.
What's a lawful reason?
So if they see you doing something illegal,
stop and frisk says you don't have to have a reason. You can just do it.
Yeah, wait.
Well, so I understand, and so I wouldn't be in favor of the arbitrary stoppage of civilians.
Wait. This is why we don't have it. This is what I'm saying is I can just be putting my hand in my pocket. A couple watts, saw you put something in your pocket. It's there's no limitation to human error in this. So stop and frisk in the middle of the street.
There's going to be errors. I understand.
Probable cause at least
has
it's
not worth it. That's
some sort of threshold.
The errors outweigh the potential gain. There's no ROI.
Again, it depends on the result, right? Or not the result. It depends on the risk. So again, the dirty bomb has an extraordinarily high risk, 80, and so I'm willing to tolerate a higher error rate if it means preventing a potential weapon of mass destruction going off in a major city. When it comes to drugs, I would agree that for drugs, I would want a much higher chance of certainty before you go through something as violative as sticking your finger in someone's butthole. Right? I agree.
All right. What about the person? I think the person who is making the report or calling the judgment, also you have to take that into consideration. If just the Boston PD comes in, this guy has a dirty bomb in his ass. I don't know if this guy knows that anything about uranium bombs or anything to make that call, right? But if you're I don't know, military, Navy, whatever, whoever deals with these types of situations, and you're making the call, I mean, sure. But it's the person who's making the judgment. And so the cops in this situation brought in someone. And it's you can't. The cop's judgment is clearly horrible.
And
Like,
to
I
be
don't even know
clear,
what
stop
county
and frisk is in use in several cities,
Yes, but
including New York
Do we
City.
know what
requires
county, or
probable
what
cause.
state or county was this in? I didn't really like read too much.
Okay.
It was in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. like, listen, I'm not
He
gonna lie. I
admits
just
it.
go off.
He admits it.
I go off the rip here. We just
Yeah.
off a free. We freestyle.
Okay.
You're here to represent the normies, so that makes total sense.
Okay.
I read the headline in the question.
Yeah.
It was yeah, Ohio. And did you read the
Yeah, I don't trust
question? It wasn't
Ohio
the
cops
question. It wasn't a
too
topic,
much.
right? Like it was last year, police in a small house town. Like that's where it was.
You just read the questions part at the end. That's it. He read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't read the whole question. He just read
Yeah.
part of the
it's
question.
in the topic. Okay. All right.
I'm here.
There
every Monday,
were
guys.
words that he
I'm
paid
here every
attention
Monday.
to.
Come
Yeah.
listen to my opinions.
Anus is what he grasped. Nothing
Yeah.
else.
That's all I had to know.
Okay. So yeah. I when designing this question, at first I wasn't going to pick this topic because I knew immediately we're all going to agree. I don't think anyone would disagree with like that. This was an overreach. Okay. But like the point of disagreement, I think, becomes where the state can compel. Right now, like Gibbs says, like not at all, right? So I wouldn't agree with that. I would agree. I think at some point the state should be able to compel you, or like it's not a state, right? If it
I mean, they
can't
could
compel,
physically make me do
literally-
it. Like I guess if they like hold me down and pry my cheeks apart, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a cold day in hell before I'm
okay,
like,
so
yeah, sounds good.
No. So that's different, but that's different what you're saying, right? You're saying that like they have to exert enough force on you to actually physically make you do it. I'm saying that the state should have the ability to use compulsion. I'm not sure if I'm using the exact word for this, but like that you can like put consequences on heap consequences on a person or an organization, right? To get them to do something, right? Negative consequences.
Yeah, Gibbs, you're not a prison
No,
abolitionist.
No. What I'm saying is, listen, there's absolutely like a level, right? They can like heap the consequences on, right? But there is like a level to where you absolutely can say no, like I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. Then they can imprison you, and at some point they will physically, can do whatever they want, right? Because it's the might makes right. But up until that point, like you have like they're not going to go to arrest this doctor for not going to do it. So if he's like,
I mean,
fuck you, they're like, we might put you in jail for a few days. If he's willing to suffer the punishment, there's no way they can physically
that's the question.
What would be
That's different question. Like, yes, a person has the right to refuse, right? Or not even right. Let's say they don't have a quote unquote right to refuse, but they can refuse, right? As an individual actor, they can refuse an order,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes they should fight back.
But no, but that's not. But clearly, that's not what I'm asking in this question, right? It's does the state should the state have the ability to compel a person to do something, and where is the line between what is acceptable to compel and what isn't acceptable?
Should they be able to hold like court or jail in front of you and be like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to go to jail for 5 years or X? Like with the Apple case, right? Wasn't there like a huge court case where like the court wanted Apple to hack the phone and Apple said no?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Should the court be able to like hold you to like a certain standard?
Right. Apple won that case.
Hold on. There's like they shouldn't be able to make an independent actor have to come do something in order for them to get it done. If they want to do it, they should have their own people, and that'll be decided. And then you can fight about whether or not. Then you can either go like revolution, or you can go like you fight them in the courts. But there's like absolutely no way they should make a third party have to go do something. They can go fuck themselves,
especially for free, because it's for free, right? They would do this for free.
Yeah, free. They can pay me, like if they
do.
Do
they, wait, hold that is a question. Do the doctors get paid for this?
Blacktoid? Probably not.
Blacktoid, do doctors that are non-government issued do they get paid for this procedure?
I don't know.
Can you try to figure that out? I would not be able to
sure.
figure that out yet.
I'll look into that. I was also looking into stop and frisk.
Cool.
So on paper, it requires reasonable suspicion, which is that there's articulable suspicion that a crime may have occurred. It's not just like a hunch or that you just like randomly could stop somebody who's just walking on the side of the road. There would need to be like there is a report of a crime in this area. This person's like walking away from the scene of the crime, like shifting, like in their clothing or whatever, reaching their clothing, like looking back at you. There's like some reports that may link this person to somebody who was there, but nothing like definitive. I'm fine with stopping that person. and questioning them. I think that would make sense. If we're talking about just randomly stopping people on the street, just and randomly, and just searching them, or arbitrarily stopping somebody and searching them, I'm not okay with that. And there's some accusations that stop and frisk has been used that way, where cops are literally just walking around, see somebody, we might as well just put a search here. Not okay with that. I am okay with the official stop and frisk, which is I have some reason to believe that a crime may have occurred. I think you might be involved because of XYZ. So I'm going to stop you, question you, and while I'm questioning you, frisk you briefly for weapons. I think that's reasonable. I think that if a cop also sees somebody like hiding a weapon, that's reasonable for a search at that point. I think that if
well, I have an issue. I have an
Uh-huh.
issue with the
That's a 2A thing.
No, we can talk about it.
I have a big issue with the idea of officer safety trumping everything else.
Yeah,
I've
fuck that.
actually been. So I was, and I was telling this on my show earlier today. I was in a 7-Eleven in Colorado. It's an open carry state. I open carry all the time. The younger officer and I were having it was a very brief but a pleasant conversation about. He asked me, "Hey, what's a cool gun you got? What do you got?" And I said, "HKP-30." He's like, "Cool, that's awesome." I'm like, "What do you got?" And he said, "Oh, I got department issue Glock 17." He's like, "That's cool too." About that time, an older officer with the biggest chip on his shoulder you could possibly carry comes in and sees that I'm carrying and engaging with his officer, and immediately demands that I disarm. And I told him to go fuck himself.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Hold on, I agree with you that
because of officer safety.
Yeah,
and this is the thing that this is the bullshit that and they can say that about anything. They can say I have to frisk you for officer safety, and if I just happen to find drugs, or if I just happen to find a pocket knife or whatever it is that they happen to find, well then they didn't need that their probable cause is negated by this officer safety bullshit.
Right. Let me elaborate a little bit more. If you see somebody open carrying, and again, if you have some reason to believe that they may have been involved in a reported crime, right? There needs to be some kind of reasonable
what
suspicion.
Is some reason?
Again, a report.
I got pulled over.
I'll give you an example.
And it's the same vicinity as someone else got a black truck. That's not reasonable reason to pull me
You're
over.
right. A black truck in a city.
I'm gonna light you up in a minute. You're gonna go nuclear.
A black truck. A black truck in a black truck. A black truck in a city full of black trucks. I agree. But Gibbs, what if? Yeah, what if a cop gets a call of an armed robbery, and then they get a report that it was a man wearing a Hawaiian shirt who maybe had some jewelry around his neck. He had a big beard, and he robbed the store in a ski mask. And then they are driving past, 2 blocks away, and they see somebody who matches that description.
I was nowhere near there.
Who sees somebody matches that description, and they see what appears to be the top end of a ski mask poking up out of the back pocket. In my opinion, this would be enough to stop the person and say, "Hey, did you happen to be around this store?"
Gibbs loves to ski. He's a huge skier.
I think that'd be reasonable, and I will agree with Grid here that in the situation where if there's no suspicion of a crime and you're just standing there open carrying, which open carrying, it's not a crime in my state. It shouldn't be a crime anywhere. But and there's no reason to suspect a crime. Okay, that's fine. But what if you're driving and you look over and you see somebody quickly shuffling in front of them, and you see them pull out a gun or move a gun and then quickly hide it in their pants while they're sneaking quick looks over at you and then throw their hoodie over.
Hold on, what if they just want to deal with the hassle of the cop coming to harass them because he's talking?
Well, no. So what I think,
who are you to just start guessing these people's mentalities?
What I think this is if somebody is
that's determination as to whether or not there's purpose to it or whether it's random.
Well, hold on. I think it's fair. I think there's a fair percentage where if you see somebody quickly shuffling to hide a handgun in their belt and hide it away from the cops when you're pulling up next to them, I think that's sufficient. I think that is sufficient for the cops. I think that's sufficient for the cops to at least ask, "Hey, are you legally allowed to carry that gun? Because violent
Cool.
felons
I think it's
violent
official for
felons
them to get
can't
the
carry
answer. Go
guns,
fuck yourself.
nor do I think violent felons should be allowed to carry
Lactoid,
guns.
I got to get your opinion on this.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I got to get your opinion. So years ago, this was probably like 98, 99, somewhere along in there. I was out in Reno. I lived in Reno for a while. Actually, I lived at Tahoe. I worked in Reno. And I was driving from from Tahoe down to Reno, go through the Washoe Valley, come out. A sheriff's department pulls me over. I have Tennessee plates on my vehicle because I live in Tennessee. And for at that time, because it was the early age of integration, whatever reason, Nevada's DMV did not talk to Tennessee's DMV. And when they ran my plates, it came back that they didn't exist. Not that they're stolen, not that they're expired. They don't exist. So I get pulled over. I pull over. No big deal. I got my license. I got my registration. Got my insurance, all that. I also have a gun under the seat of my car. Now, I wasn't actually carrying it on me at the time because I was headed to work and I was in a suit. But I had the gun underneath the seat, which in Nevada law, that's an extension of your home. Very helpful to know the laws of the state that you're in. So it's perfectly within my rights to have that gun there. So the officer comes to my passenger door rather than the driver's door, which put me a little off, but that's okay. As I'm rolling up the window, crank windows, by the way, this is old. And getting my wallet out, I look back over at the officer, and this woman has a gun pointed at me in my face.
That's ridiculous.
Because she saw the gun under my seat, Lactoid.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I have a real problem with officer safety. All right.
Hold on. You can't.
I'm nowhere near this damn gun.
Yes. Yeah. Hold on. We can both agree that's like a ridiculous overreaction.
It is ridiculous. But
now that doesn't mean officer safety is nothing, right? Like you would agree with some element of officer safety. If you're arresting somebody, you have the right to take their gun off them.
I believe that they get paid to take risk, and sometimes
they should be paid.
Should they be allowed to have their gun when they've been arrested in the back of the cop car?
I've actually heard stories of people who actually hidden knives and guns and drugs in the back of cop cars.
It's an extension of my body.
And they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, and it's a problem. It's a problem when that happens, right?
I got to keep it on me.
Sure. No, look. Hey, if you're getting arrested is different than just the initial contact.
No, I agree. And look, if you're making an initial contact, and especially in your situation, in which the gun was under your seat, pulling the gun and aiming at you is completely unacceptable. But I also think
thing was hilarious. Gibbs will lose his mind if I tell you the whole thing.
But I also think that here's I think the reasonable way that should have been handled, because the license plate not coming back is the first sign of a stolen car, right? You get a fake. Yes, it is. You get a fake license plate. You put it in the back of a stolen car.
Yeah. Grid one stole a car.
And the cop. It could be. And so hold on. I know that you didn't. I'm just saying it's the first indication of a stolen car. And so I think the cop is perfectly justified in pulling over the car.
Oh, yeah, I didn't have a problem getting pulled over.
Right. Yeah, walking over and saying, "Hey, weird thing here. Your plate's not coming back. Can I just check the VIN to make sure this car is stolen?" Perfectly. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Hold on, real quick, Grid. You would agree with me that a cop pulling you over and just asking to look at the VIN, perfectly reasonable,
well,
right?
I'll give you another interaction. Similar deal, except actually I think it was in that same state. Similar deal. Get pulled over. Officer says, "Sir, you have a gun under your seat." I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He says, "Don't reach for it, and I won't reach for mine. If you go anywhere near that,
reasonable,
we're gonna have a problem." That is how that should have been handled.
I agree.
I was in Utah at I just left Miller Motorsports Park. I was coming back. I passed a DUI checkpoint. I get pulled over. The officer said, comes over, truck full of dudes, out of state plates on a weekend. He obviously thinks we're all drunk. He thinks we're out partying. And he says, "Hey, got your license?" I'm like, "Yeah, here's my license. My registration and insurance are in my glove compartment with my gun. I'm sure you would rather reach for those than me." And he did. He opened the door. He removed he said, "Hey, I'm going to take your gun with me." Just,
must be fucking nice, bro.
Huh?
Bro,
It must be nice to just be like, yeah, look at the cop, like, yeah, I bet you want to reach for it before I do. Ha 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 ha.
Wait, hold on. Do you agree with the VIN question that the cop should be able to pull you over and ask to read your VIN for your car? Like, I think that's reasonable, right?
No, fuck no.
No. I mean, listen.
With a fake license, or like,
listen,
could be a fake license
pulling
plate.
you over and asking, sure, but wait, Lactoid, how long can he hold you? How long can he hold you to check this? How deep can he check?
Like,
well, technically, you need to have a plate in order to drive in public roadways. So the cop could like get your VIN.
Yeah, that's about it, right? Like, it's like, hey, this car isn't reported stolen. I have the paperwork. I will see you later, officer.
Yeah, I want to see. Yeah, and then I'm going to ask for the paperwork.
Hold on. So now y'all want us not only to
answer.
This is ridiculous. Now you want not only us to answer to the government, you want us to answer for the government who might be having a system
and their
there.
lackeys.
And so now we have to be held responsible to sit here for a computing error. This is fucking totalitarianism. That's what happens
this is America.
Having the cop
You're taking my America away.
Right?
You guys promised
I'm traveling and not driving. Is that
you guys promised me making great America
Are
great
you
again.
more? Okay.
I'm so sorry, officer.
You're taking my America away from me.
I'm so sorry it's broken. Let me just
Moorish
nation. For your inconvenience of you not having this information that I just so freely offered up. Like, that's fucking bullshit.
America away from me. These are my freedoms, the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I think it's. I think that if a cop runs your license plate and it comes back either stolen or it comes back nothing, and the cop is perfectly
nothing.
Wait,
I think the cop is perfectly fine. And Grit agrees. And Grit agrees. We pull the person over, ask them, and then like investigate a little bit.
I agree with you. In 1998, when the DMVs were still operating on paper, and you couldn't do shit online, I disagree with you. Because just because your state can't get my tag is meaningless to me. Because they don't, you can't rely on the computer.
I still think they should have been able to pull you over and question.
Down that day. Let's pull everybody over and let's search everybody's
because
car.
here,
martial law. That's what we're gonna do.
What if they
just have martial law? Hey,
that's what Lactoid said.
On this road after hey, let's have curfew.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Lactoid says he wants checkpoints at every intersection, right?
I want this authoritarian concept that you have to have like a little plastic card in order to even operate a vehicle. Crazy. This is. I'm basically a fascist.
You drove through the toll road.
You talking about wanting to know my identification? It's called a government name. Why is it called a government name?
Well, you're right. It's Lactoid the person, not Lactoid the corporation. Okay.
It's not even God given anymore. It's your government name.
So all right, but multiple things. All right, one Lactoid, and this was something that
I'm trying to be reasonable.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just haven't read, and I really want to explore this limit because I think we're already stumbling upon the conflicts here. But just before we do that, right? And I don't know if you understand this part of the law, but cavity searches in general, I was surprised that they even needed a medical staff to do that. Because I thought they could, in jail,
the most common, well, they do. I think there's like some medical staff in jails that can do it, but you generally need medical staff to do it. The body cavity searches are generally rare. The most common reason this happens is for blood draws for DUIs. So in order to get a blood draw, you have to get a warrant, and then they will send you to a hospital, and like a nurse will come in, stick you with a needle, draw your blood, then measure your blood alcohol content with that, or scan for other drugs. Right? That requires a warrant, but they can do it, and they will have the hospital stick a needle in your arm. And by the way, that terrifies the fuck out of me because I hate needles. I'm terrified.
But hold on, wait. They can only
that scares you more than a body cavity search.
They can only issue a blood draw if like you got caught doing something. So it's like if it's a DUI, if it's something like that, then they can compel.
If they suspect you of a DUI, if you come back below 0.08, then you're fine.
Well, I mean, they'd have to suspect. No. They can't suspect you of a DUI and take you to get a blood draw. They have to go through a procedure first. They'd have to do the breathalyzer.
You have to refuse.
No,
you have to refuse.
They don't have to do a breathalyzer.
Or you'd have to refuse.
Not necessarily. They can do a sobriety test and get a blood draw. They can do both.
Wait, on spot. So in what world is it?
They have to take you to a hospital to do the blood draw. I watch plenty of cop videos. I've absolutely seen like a drunk person fail the fuck out of a sobriety test and then get taken to the hospital where they do a blood draw, and they're like, your blood alcohol content is, point fucking
But he
2.
failed the
And
It's
you
like,
test.
can
Jesus
sue
Christ.
for that, right?
No, you can't sue for that if it's a
What?
court order.
You'd impound
It's a
my
warrant.
car. You would impound my car, and then you would, you forcibly drew my blood. I feel like that's a weird.
Yeah, they will search you. It's considered a search. A blood draw is considered a search if there's a
Yeah, you don't
valid
like police
warrant.
immunity, huh? You're not a fan of police immunity?
Yeah, they can even
Me?
force
Nah, I
you-
mean, I've never been a fan. I don't
in
really.
terms of your phone, something pro tip is that they can force you to provide your fingerprint, like to get into your phone if you have a fingerprint lock. But they can't force you to like if there's a code, right, or a pattern, they can't force that out of you. So
What about
like
Face ID? Close my
I
eyes.
guess Face ID would probably count, right? You just put it in front of your face. I mean,
Close my
Force
eyes.
you to open your eyes.
yeah. I mean, I think you're out of fucking luck.
Yeah, I wish you would.
I mean, the reality is, like, if we end the drug war, most of the concern that comes around with like these police searches is going to go away, because most of the motivation that these police have in order to search people is to look for drugs, right? If you don't have cops searching for drugs in the same way and like policing the community in the same way, like most of the situations that we would see like searches would be for situations that are much more understandable. Like, oh, this guy like we heard 4 gunshots go off. This guy's running from the scene while hastily tucking something, and so we had to search him. Okay, that's way more fucking reasonable than pulling this guy over and having him sit in a hospital for an extended period of time, fighting over whether or not we can search his butthole for drugs, right? Like the first scenario is like way more reasonable for public safety and the shit that cops should actually be doing as opposed to the second situation.
Probably, yeah.
Corey, all right, let's go. Let Corey in.
Just a quick question to Lactoid, and I think the article sort of alludes to the case where they wanted to draw this person's blood, and the nurse refused it because they I think didn't have a warrant at the time. But I'm just curious, like, do you know how it would play out in terms of like if they have a warrant to draw this person's blood to test for the blood alcohol, but okay, sure, 2 warrants. But well, no, I'm talking about the case where they didn't have the warrant. I'm talking about the blood draw.
I've seen I've seen a situation where a cop asked the nurse to do a blood draw without a warrant, and he was too lazy to like actually ask for one. And the nurse said, "No, I'm not going to do that without a warrant." And then the cop arrested the nurse, and then the cop got in trouble for that one, as he should have.
Yeah, I agree.
She did nothing wrong. Yeah.
I'm just curious, like if they have a warrant, okay, but like no medical professional chooses to cooperate, like is that like the dead end that you were alluding to?
Yeah, that's a really tough situation. Like, because I would want a medical professional doing something like that, and let's say we have some actually valid reason to be searching someone's like blood or butthole or whatever the fuck, not the weird scenario here where we could just wait a few days, right? Let's say it's a situation where like this person just killed somebody in a motor vehicle accident, and we need to determine what their actual blood alcohol content is, and they are refusing to do a breathalyzer, or for some reason we can't do a breathalyzer. Like we need to get the blood. In that situation, yeah, at some point somebody has to get the blood, right? We got to figure out if this person was drunk when they hit the 3-year-old on the side of the road.
So just because I did a kind of a deep dive on this earlier today, in the case of actual crimes to other people, like if you hit someone DUI, if they suspect that you are in some way impaired operating machinery and someone else gets hurt, they do compel a warrant, and that warrant, they generically no longer take you to a hospital. They have techs at the jail that will do it, or they'll take you to an EMT because EMTs and which work for the fire department and the nurse, the techs at the jail can legally do those service, draw the blood and do all the testing, and that preserves the chain of evidence. But they're not bound by the same Hippocratic oath that doctors and some nurses are in hospitals, and so they don't run into that barrier like they do at this hospital. The problem they ran into at the hospital is the doctor said, no, there's no reason to do this. In our medical opinion, he'll just either poop it out, or in a couple of days, we'll go in and get it. There's no reason for
You
this
could have the same
inflation.
objection for a blood
No
alcohol
reason.
level.
Yeah, there's no
You
reason to.
could. You could say like, well, if I stick this person with a needle to draw blood, there's always the risk of infection, which there is with any kind of.
In that, there's always off cases, right? Like people who have what is that? I'm drawing a blank. It's the where you just bleed
hemophilia, or like
yes, thank you.
Anemia.
Yeah, and you could have
Doctors
someone
missing veins is the most common shit. That is a major fuck up, and that makes up a lot of medical malpractice cases.
Right.
So what if
Sorry.
That's good. What about that other case that I brought up where the hospital is being asked to determine somebody's citizenship or whatever, and the hospital doesn't want to ask that question because they are afraid that it'll have a chilling effect on the community, and then people won't go to the ER anymore because they're afraid, and then people are harmed because of it, and so that that hospital, that Catholic-run hospital, especially given the papal letter that came out recently, says that we're not going to do anything to harm members of the community in that way. They make that decision for themselves, not to ask that intake question. Federal government's going to come after them in some way, right? Like Trump wants compliance with these things. What do we do about that?
I mean, if it's a private hospital, I'm actually, I gotta go. I'm gonna just say one thing on this. I got something that just came up. If it's a private hospital, then and they don't take money from the government, they can definitely tell them to go fuck off. Otherwise, if they're taking money from the government, they should probably follow it. But otherwise, I'm gonna rate it out to you, Prod. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry I have to leave early. Appreciate you having me.
Have a good one, friend.
Yeah,
so 3 hours late last time and leaving early this time.
Well, it's been a wild last 2 weeks. I apologize. Thank you so much.
Have a good one, man. Be good.
We don't have Gibbs' consent to force them to stay.
Yeah. So my thing is like, you have professionals that are meant to do these jobs, right? So this was kind of I had this argument before about like, if you see someone stealing, no, you didn't, because it's not your responsibility to the store, right? As a worker, if you're just a cashier, you're not a security guard. So you taking and assuming a risk upon yourself is not like worth it to you. There's no ROI to you. It's not like you're going to get any benefit. So like in this same instance, it's like you want a hospital. I don't care if they're getting government money or not. The job that like a doctor or a nurse or the hospital staff is working is not ICE. They didn't sign up to be police. They didn't sign up to do immigration. They signed up to be doctors. That's what they're studied in. That's what they know. So like, yeah, to put like that extra responsibility on their head without the pay of that comes with that responsibility is absolutely ridiculous. One, and then two, like, yeah, you shouldn't be compelled to do someone else's job. We have entire agencies meant to find illegal immigrants, so on and so forth. Let them do their jobs. They can do their jobs.
That's also the case with my job, right? Like if I find out that one of my students' is parents are not here legally, they want to say that I should report to them to the government, and
absolutely not.
I'm refusing to do it. It's a little bit easier for me now because I'm not working for public school anymore, but I was for a long time. And there were plenty of kids. Like I had kids that had straight A's, but their parents, they were dreamers, right? Their parents brought them here illegally when they were children, no fault of their own. And I couldn't get them FAFSA because they couldn't apply for FAFSA if they weren't citizens. But we have something called TAFSA, which is the Texas version of FAFSA, and it does not require that you be a citizen, which is interesting. And so I would use that to get them scholarships all the time.
Nice.
All the time.
Like my thing is
now the government's going to try to stop people like me from doing that.
My thing is with the whole, like, if you see someone stealing, no, you didn't, so on and so forth. I understand that there's a communal aspect, right? You don't want your community to like be thieved, but there's like the second aspect of like when it comes to like this and comes to like illegal. There's, let's call it a 50-50 split. There's half of the country that says, oh, illegal immigrants need to be deported tomorrow, and then there's the other half that are like, no, we should just like work them into the system somehow in some way and get it faster. You can't just like be like force the other, like this half of people to just, one, turn on their entire ethics, but two, once again, implement and take on a whole nother responsibility and another job without any ROI. Like there's no benefit to them. It's all just cost, like, and it's cost to their community. They believe that their community is safe.
Fairness, the hospital asks a shit ton of questions that I think are irrelevant, and I still answer them.
I answered
whether or
too.
not you think they're relevant isn't what we're asking. We're saying,
But
like,
my answer didn't matter because
yeah.
he said you have three options. You can say yes, you can say no, or you can say I choose not to say.
Yeah, whether or not
And
you
if you
answer doesn't
say I
matter.
choose not to say, and the government gets that the information on that, then they're going to investigate you just for refusing to answer the question.
I'll give a real simple like example, like just imagine like a nurse asking a patient that's coming in, like, hey, are you an illegal, like, are you here illegally? And he runs out because he's like worried about ICE, pushes her over. Now she has like an ankle, like she hurts her ankle. This is a very like simple thing that could happen, and like, hold up, wait. So
There's
all I'm
some
saying is like
crimes, though,
you're,
right, Ali?
He had that
huh?
reach.
There's some crimes that I
There's
generally,
some
I
crimes, like
generally,
being here illegally.
no,
Is
not
that the
that one.
crime that you're?
No, I'm
Oh.
talking about like we'll agree there's some crimes that we would expect medical professionals to report to the police, right? I can think of
Honestly,
multiple that I think you would say yes to. So,
I'm in favor of mandatory reporting for those types of crimes.
yeah. So like
Gibbs is not, I don't think.
well, I think everybody here would have to be, right. The classic example